We're leaning on experience for this landmark podcast episode as we notch up the half-century. Our panel of betting experts will look to mark the occasion with another profitable week, and hopefully we can have a pod treble that doesn't rely on Everton scoring a goal. All that and more on today's show. Hello and welcome to the Football Betting Pod powered by Betting Expert. I'm your host, Daniel Jenkins, joined as ever by Betting Expert's football editor, Sam Ingram. Sam, congratulations on episode number 50.
Hello, Dan. Yeah, congratulations to you as well. I think maybe we've both done 49 shows each off the top of my head. I think we've missed one each. I
think I've missed two.
Nice. Okay, so I'm 49.
The individual honors will have to wait, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed it and it's been profitable.
Yeah, still in profit overall for the show. We're at plus 1.38%. You are at plus 10.37% over 49 episodes, which is very good.
Take that. I'll take that. But more importantly, that there is a pressing matter, and I think I'll speak for everyone when I say there's only one place we can really start on the 50th episode of the Betting Expert Football Betting Podcast, and that is with the most pressing topic in football right now. Lazio's bird handler, and luckily, actually, we have a Serie A expert with us today, so
Serie A bird expert. Yeah,
he can run through the story for us, which is
I mean, the news of the year has been on the New York Times, on the Guardian, has been reported in many different ways. But yes, the sad news is that Juan Bernabé, and then more importantly, his eagle Olympia, are not going to fly anymore over the Stadio Olimpico because he's been sacked. And why the reason? He shared explicit pictures of his penile implant, so he's got a new eagle, if you like, or something new, but not the one that flies. Anyway, he's a 50 years old. Curiously enough, so the president of Lazio, that was enough. He couldn't have it. He was bringing the club into disrepute. Curiously enough, a couple of years ago, Juan Bernabé was also famous for flying the eagle, who flew the eagle at Benfica. So Palmas fans might be on the lookout for a new mascot handler. Well, by the way, 2 years ago, Juan Bernabé did a Nazi salute under the Lazio supporters. He was just suspended back then, so he was not considered a serious offense, but really sharing pictures of your new implant is he's been everywhere in Italy. Frankly, I'm a little bit sick of hearing it, so let's stick to the bets. Let's stick to the football.
Well, at least his eagle is flying, is all I'll say. Thank you very much, Daniele Fisichella, who's joining us today. We will keep talking to you about what you were just brought on for that. It was, we will be getting some tips and stuff from you later. Also joining us today, Scott Thornton. Scott, any thoughts on the eagle handler? January window's open. Any transfers come in? Or?
Well, I did ask Sky to put a market up. I was thinking maybe Brighton, Liverpool, and Crystal Palace would all sort of do battle for a new bird handler, but it doesn't look like they're going to offer that market. But I'm just disappointed, to be honest. It's I've just looked through the script, and there's no Plymouth Argyle bet on episode number 50. So
you've missed it then.
I've missed it. Oh, wow. Okay. There we go then.
And on that, actually, how good would it be if there was a bloke at the Amex, like, welcoming in a seagull before every home game? I would really like to see that.
Just get school kids to throw down like a bag of chips in the centre circle.
Doesn't have a glove, he just has a bag of chips to tempt them in. Okay, second episode of the week. Let's not spend too long on the players and trees, but midweek action in the Premier League this week, which will affect a few things. A couple of matches across Europe as well. So let's just jump straight into the bet, shall we? Scott, kick us off with your first bet of the show, looking at Everton versus Tottenham.
Yeah, so I'm not taking responsibility for the treble bet losing, by the way. Dominic Calvert-Lewin missed an open goal in injury time, so that's the perfect cop-out for me. They should have scored. Me and Sam were quite hot on Everton, and obviously they lost 1-0, didn't score. But it wasn't as bad.
Speak for yourself, mate. Don't bring me into this. You speak for yourself.
Well, over 10.5 shots, I believe, went down by 1, didn't it, as well?
It was 12.5, but yeah.
Okay.
It was even more optimistic.
Even more then. There was no triumphant return for David Moyes, but there was some promise there. They did keep 50% possession against Villa, obviously showing a little bit more impetus, I should say. And They
Back to the Eagle handler.
Jesus.
Mayhem, chaos.
Why that is gone after that? Oh, sorry. Right, we'll start it off again. Right.
None of this is getting cut, Scott. Keep going.
Nah, I'm not cutting that. No
Showing more.
chance.
Oh, sorry.
Showing the impetus, yeah.
Right. Sorry. Composure. Yeah, so they kept 50% possession, racked up an XG of 1.14, which was just 0.07 less than Villa. Created 3 big chances. As I say, Calvert-Lewin missing a goal, an opportunity to snatch a draw in injury time. So we're going to stick with sort of that theme when Everton really galvanised, showing a bit of fight, and back over 13.5 free kicks for Tottenham in the match. There is correlation there, I assure you. Everton obviously tackles, getting stuck in. That's exactly what we saw against Villa. They made 19 tackles, and there were 17 fouls for Everton, and they also had 5 offsides, which would mean a free kick count of 22 for Aston Villa. The Toffee's foul count is above average in the Premier League this season, 11.8 to the Premier League's average of 11.23. And I'm expecting that to rise slightly in the next few weeks under David Moyes. They take on a Tottenham side who are forcing the most fouls in the Premier League, which is quite nice. Their opponents average 13.52 fouls and 2.24 offside. So we're looking at a free kick count of around 15 there. Tottenham had 19 free kicks in the reverse fixture, despite recording an emphatic 4-0 win. I'm expecting this one to be a lot tighter. Tottenham are low on confidence themselves. They could really do with the 3 points. I'd be surprised if they poll clear here. So then an even greater free kick count could come to fruition here. The bet has landed in 8 of Tottenham's 10 Premier League away matches this season. So I'm really, really hopeful that we see a good free kick count, but we're just going to back over 13.5 in this one. I think last I checked, you can get 16-1 for over 21.5 free kicks for Tottenham, which obviously landed in Everton's first home game under David Moyes. So anybody looking for a long shot, then we'll spread that at 0.1 as well. Why not?
Nice. Yeah, as you said, 2 struggling sides here. Everton didn't get quite the fairy tale return for David Moyes in midweek, and Tottenham lost the North London derby to Arsenal. Looking at the fouls, Scott, are you expecting? You often say that like game state kind of affects the prop lines a lot here, and are you expecting 2 teams who maybe a little bit frustrated with their recent form, looking to kind of kickstart their season again? Also, the fact that Richarlison is back for Tottenham may lend a few fouls to you against his former club. Are you looking at factors like that when you think about fouls and free kicks for these games?
As I say, the numbers look really good anyway. The fact that Tottenham won the reverse fixture 4-0 and we still saw them get 19 free kicks. Okay, there's an element of frustration for Everton there. But generally, when these games are more competitive, the numbers will go up. So I just think that adds to the narrative here. The narrative will just help the numbers climb, and that's why we're going to have a little go on the 22 free kicks for the opposition as well. I do think that another game of Gunners, and Everton did play well-ish against Villa. I think we could see more of the same. Tottenham are another stiff opponent, aren't they? And yeah, I think it all sort of leads in nicely to what should be an entertaining fixture, whether we see plenty of goals like Tottenham games normally bring, or not many like Everton games normally bring. But I think we'll certainly see plenty of tackles and fouls.
Yeah, I was going to bring up goals. Obviously, Everton have been struggling for goals the past couple of weeks. Is this the team they get them against? Tottenham so wide open. They're playing, a central an 18-year-old central midfielder and centre back. They looked like they had a couple of maybe injury problems, fitness problems with some of their full-backs in midweek as well. Dominic Calvert-Lewin to score any time? What are we saying?
After he's missed that chance, he just couldn't possibly go for it. But Everton are the serial XG underperformers. I think they score today. At the weekend, I should say. I think they score against Tottenham. So that's put a lot on the line. But yeah, injuries at the back. Like you say, Porro was obviously sent for an absolute walk in the week. And I'm not sure if he'll be fully fit after that. He certainly won't mentally be fully recovered from that turn. I think Everton score. They could even get the win, to be honest. But now you're asking me to make more predictions. I just think there'll be 14 free kicks for Tottenham.
Fair enough. Yeah, as long as there's no bets relying on an Everton goal. Tottenham's struggling, aren't they? They've lost. They've won one of their last 9 fixtures, I think, in the Premier League. So we'll see. Scott's first bet is over 13.5 free kicks for Tottenham in Everton versus Tottenham. That's a 1.83, one full unit on that. Sam, sticking with the Premier League, looking at Fulham.
Yeah, speaking of strugglers as well, I'm going Fulham minus 0.5 Asian handicap at 1.95 on Bet365 to beat Leicester City. In the shape I'm in now, having not played 11 aside for a few years, I'd honestly fancy my chances against a Vestergaard, Wout Faes centre-back pairing. Like, honestly, I watched the game and they were so laboured, slow. They made Matete up front look really sharp, and I know he's not the slowest and he gets around the pitch, but he is a bit of a lump. And if you get a chance to go and watch the first Palace goal from midweek, he like arches his run right around the centre-backs and then round the back of Vestergaard. And he was just so slow to react, and he almost seemed uninterested. And overall, last night against Palace, it was pretty clear that there was a lack of quality at this level throughout the pitch. They were the better team in the opening stages, Leicester, but they just couldn't capitalise. And if you look at this Leicester squad, I just think they're not good enough, especially at the back. And if I'm not mistaken, looking at the back four last night, it's the same back four that got them relegated 2 years ago. Or maybe they weren't starting as a back four in that season, but those four were definitely in the squad. And the only difference is they got rid of Soyuncu and Evans is gone as well. So yeah, and up top in Buonanotte and El Kanous, who touched on it last week, like they are good. Good players, but they're young, they're learning, and it's a big blow that Fatu's not involved with his injury, but that happens. And given the quality of the squad, there's a growing over-reliance on those guys in forward areas, because Jamie Vardy up top, like, we know exactly what he's about, but he's 38 years old now and he's still leading the line for Leicester City in the Premier League. Club legend, obviously, but the question's got to be asked, like, is he the right man to be leading Leicester City, their forward line in the Premier League? I'm not so sure. Got Odsonne Edouard, he didn't even make the bench last night from Palace on loan. Horrendous piece of business. He started just one Premier League game this season by the looks of it. He's not injured, just can't get anywhere near the squad. They've just recalled Tom Cannon from Stoke, good striker at Championship level, but the noise there is that he's probably heading to a Championship promotion contender in Sheffield United or Sunderland, but I'll probably give him a chance looking at the squad. And just, yeah, overall, Dan, looking at their activity in the summer, and I know with hindsight it's quite easy to say, but we were saying this at the start of the season. There's probably 4 or 5 podcasts in a row where I backed against Leicester because of these issues and because of their signings. Looking at their summer activity, Oliver Skipp, 23.5 million. Like, that should have gone, or a portion of that fee should have gone on a striker, because no chance they should be relying on what they've got now game after game. And just overall, Dan, I think it might be as easy as Fulham, better team, Leicester, not so good, in the habit of losing games at home too, which is not great in the Premier League when you're in a rut and you've got a new manager and you're trying to get out of a situation. So at near evens, I like Fulham to win the game.
Yeah, same. It's a bad situation at the moment, isn't it, for Leicester City? I will say for this game, Betsy's given them a fighting chance, projected 1.04 goals. And looking at the opposition, Fulham are struggling to keep the goals out away from home. They've conceded 7 in their last 4 on the road in the Premier League, including 3 to a resurgent West Ham in midweek. Are you considering maybe Fulham aren't the strongest team at the moment, and their inability to keep clean sheets might just give Leicester a bit of confidence?
Maybe. I really like Fulham at the minute. I think they're great. Maybe they're not as good overall as they were in opening stages of the season, but I still think they're a really good team. Marco Silva's got them set up brilliantly. And if you look at West Ham midweek, West Ham scored 3 goals from their first 3 shots, and that was about it, really. And so I'd maybe dampen those resurgent shouts just yet, Dan. But yeah, no, look, I just think Fulham, if you look at them more generally, they're bright in the final third. It will be Jimenez, whoever else is backing them up. We've got Traore there, bags of pace. Iwobi's not slow either. And they're inventive, lots of pace to treble that back line, which will not like it, because that has to be the slowest centre-back pairing I've maybe ever seen in the Premier League. Maybe not, actually. There would have been a few lumps in the 80s and 90s, I'm sure. But really slow, that they're not going to like that at all. And I just think in the end, Fulham will edge the game. Leicester had their chances last night, but there's not enough quality in the final third. They're just not taking their chances. The goals they should be scoring, they're just not. And when they come up against what is a pretty good back line in Fulham, Anderson, Robinson on the left's having the season of his life, I just think they're going to struggle. So at double your money at 1.95, near enough, it's a price I'm happy to take.
Yeah, it looks good. You got to consider Fulham. It's one clean sheet in 11 in all competitions. But coming up against this Leicester attack, you'd fancy them to maybe keep another one.
I'd say so.
Sam's first bet, Fulham minus 0.5 Asian handicap. Fulham to win, basically. When they take on Leicester City, there's one full unit on that. Daniele, over to you for your first bet, which is a double from La Liga.
Yes, and it involves Barcelona and Real Madrid, the two teams that fought out the Super Cup in Saudi Arabia. Barcelona won as we know it, and now back in action after midweek action in Copa del Rey. So a bit of fixture pile-up, really, for the Spanish clubs. This is probably the equivalent of their Boxing Day, New Year's Day fixture, where they got so many fixtures. And I think this probably is a personal theory, but there is the Super Cup hangover, especially when the Super Cup gets played overseas and in Saudi Arabia. Now, the Spanish Super Cup has been hosted in Saudi Arabia since 2020, with a small parenthesis 2021 in Andalusia, which is probably as hot as Saudi Arabia sometimes. But anyway, when Barcelona and Real Madrid have returned from Saudi Arabia, they've only managed to win by more than one goal margin in 3 times out of 40 matches, played together across 4 campaigns. So, for example, last season, Real Madrid knocked out of the Copa del Rey by Atletico Madrid. Okay, you will say it is Atletico Madrid. You can take that. But then the home game against Almeria, a team that got relegated, they only won it 3-2. Barcelona, last season, after the Super Cup, conceded against a third division team in Copa del Rey, Unionista de Salamanca, then traveled to Betis and needed 2 late goals in stoppage time to win the game. You go back to 2020, 21, 2022, and there are poor results for these teams after the Super Cup. Real Madrid, 2 draws with Elche in 2022. Barcelona lost to Atletico Bilbao back in 2020. Again, narrow wins. And these trends have been replicated in Serie A. If you look at the last 2 seasons since the Cup has been in Saudi Arabia, last weekend only Inter of the 4 teams that play in the Super Cup won 1-0 against Venezia. They struggled fairly a lot. Atalanta traveled to Udinese, only recorded 0.23 xG, the lowest of the season so far. Midweek, Inter drew against Bologna. Milan struggled against Como, needed 2 goals in 5 minutes to win. So I think there is an issue here around the fixture pile up and coming back from a 7-day trip in the Middle East. So yeah, I combined the 2 bets for a mini akka for this one.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the length of the time that they would have been out there. It's not like going away for an away game in the Champions League, is it, where you maybe stay one night. Barcelona and Real Madrid played on the 8th and the 9th, so that was the Tuesday and Wednesday. They probably would have flown out Monday or Tuesday, wouldn't they, the day before the game. They were both there until the 12th, so until the Sunday. They probably would have gone on the Monday as well with the time difference. So that's almost a week. It's basically it's almost a major tournament, isn't it? If you go out the first stages.
And in between there are Copa del Rey games, and I know Barcelona yesterday won 5-0 in style, but we're talking about 2 teams that got issues. Barcelona, sometimes they do lack the experience and the cutting edge to see games out. And let's not forget, they've only collected 5 points in the last 7 La Liga games. And Real Madrid are shipping an awful lot of goals. So far, they have conceded in all competition 30 goals, which is the second biggest record for teams competing in La Liga at the moment. Yeah, Real Madrid at home have been decent so far, but they hardly won by a large score, really. So I think by combining the 2 of them, and by the way, Barcelona haven't won at Getafe at the Coliseum in the last 4 visits, but I think they might concede here, although with the return of Yamal, who scored, I think, 30% of the goals so far and contributed to 30% of the goals, they definitely have a chance of winning there. But I think if you combine an over 2.25 goals Asian line in Getafe Barcelona and Las Palmas Asian handicap plus 275 at Real Madrid. You get 248 at one unit. So it's a mini hack. Again, they might not both land, but you got room here to maybe just record half a win or half a loss. Again, let's not forget that the plus 3 handicap with Real Madrid this season hasn't paid at home. The reverse fixture was 1-1 with Las Palmas. I think Real Madrid wins maybe this one 3-1, so that covers your handicap easily. And Barcelona scores a couple, but I think they concede as well against Getafe, which again will make your bet land.
Las Palmas are in great form on the road in particular. Their last 3 away games, okay, this is before the winter break as well, but they drew 0-0 with Sociedad, and then they beat Barcelona 2-1 at the Camp Nou before that, then beat Rayo Vallecano 3-1, and then even going to Atletico Madrid, they only lost 2-0, so it landed there, and obviously Atleti are the form team in La Liga at the moment, so really does look good, that one.
Yeah, feel good about the Madrid one. And on the Barcelona, yes, they had a big win in midweek, but comes back to the fixture congestion you were discussing, Daniele. They played a near full-strength team against Real Betis in midweek. I think it was only Robert Lewandowski of the kind of starting players didn't play in the match. So, yeah, expecting a bit of fatigue, travel to maybe catch up with them, and hopefully it's still a pretty big Asian handicap line for them to get past, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And there is the Champions League returning next week as well. I know, sometimes people in comments I read there is a bit of fatigue biased, but I think in this moment of and often it's taken into account, they are fatigued and not going to play well. But I think the lack of training, the excessive travel, it definitely takes a toll. And we're not talking about here Real Madrid and Barcelona necessarily losing or dropping points, although historically they've done it. But we're talking about conceding goals against lesser sides, or not winning by a big margin.
Yeah, so win the games by 1 or 2 goals, and this bet can still pay out. So fingers crossed. Daniele's first bet is a La Liga double: Getafe versus Barcelona over 2.25 goals Asian line, and Las Palmas plus 2.75 versus Real Madrid. That's a 2.48 if you put them together as a double. Sam, back to you. We're going down to League One.
Reading versus Stockport at Reading. You can get Reading on a plus 0.25 Asian handicap at odds against at evens. So I think this is quite an interesting price. You got Stockport as the 2.10 favourites away at Reading, who are the 3.20 home underdogs. So Stockport have won just 3 away games this season: Burton, Shrewsbury and Blackpool in August. And some would probably say that they should be beating Burton and Shrewsbury regardless of location. And if you look at Reading, we've got the second best home team in League One. Only Wrexham's unbeaten points return of 38 pips Reading's point haul of 27, and Reading have lost just 2 of 11 home games all season. Reading are 6th in the league, Stockport are 1 place behind in 7th, both looking at the playoff picture this season. So the question I've got down really is, why the disparity in price on the away side to the home side? And I would say it's likely because the underlying data makes for a pretty grim reading from Reading's point of view. So their overperformance, 39 goals scored from 29.86 XG, is the second biggest in League One. They've been overly clinical, and that's something that usually doesn't last. We know that. Reading's 36.0 XGA is also one of League One's biggest expected goals against totals. It's the 4th worst in their division, which is obviously not great reading, and in turn that will affect the bookmakers' projections and odds. And here we are then with a rather lopsided betting market. But does that underlying data really mean Reading should be odds against plus 0.25 Asian handicap underdogs? If you're unaware, this plus 0.25 Asian handicap line means we'll win half profits if this ends in a draw. And that feels a bit generous to me, given home advantage, home form, and how Reading have conducted themselves on their own patch this season. What I will say, and we touched on it last week for the FA Cup when Stockport played Crystal Palace, is Stockport are without key players. And if we're going to give the underlying data such weight when looking at a fixture like this, then we have to take into account the loss of Louis Barry for Stockport. He's been recalled to Aston Villa, far too good for League One, and proved that consistently. Barry scored 15 goals from 9.66 expected goals. If you take away that contribution for this Stockport side, maybe they wouldn't be far off Saturday's hosts from an underlying perspective. And I have these sides ranked quite similarly. It's probably not a game I'd be interested in if they were, if this was a pick'em. I'd probably steer well clear from it. Two good teams at the level who will both be targeting, a playoff spot. So to get the home side on a plus handicap at odds against, I think it's a line that's worth taking.
It's a very interesting match, the way it's set up. Stockport are currently being projected by Betsy to finish above Reading in the table, giving them a 36.3% chance of reaching the playoffs, compared to just 30% for Reading. So not a lot between them in the underlines, but as you said, that will be based on data from earlier in the season. And looking at Stockport's recent form, they have fallen off a cliff in the past couple of months. But what I want to bring up, Sam, is the reverse fixture, which Stockport won 4-1 earlier in the season.
Okay.
Big victory. But
from the top of my head, I think Louis Barry probably scored in that game. Maybe got a couple. Quickly get it up here.
He scored 2.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, that kind of backs up my point a little bit, I think. In that game, you would have had Louis Barry, probably Horsfall at centre-back as well, and Lewis Bate in midfield. Those two are probably both still missing for the weekend. Like I said, two teams, similar quality-wise, but now with Stockport without a few key players and Reading at home, I don't think we'll see another 4-1. And just out of interest, Dan, where did Betsy have either team finishing this season? Are they in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Both of them, or just Stockport?
Stockport in 6th.
6, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, where's Reading in that? Do you have that?
7th.
Right, okay. Yeah, see, so no, they are really close in quality. Like I said, I'd probably steer clear if this was priced differently, but it's not. And so it was the standout in the EFL for me out of Championship, League 1 and League 2.
Stockport's away form is very, very poor as well. So they've only got 3 away wins in 12 this season. But as Dan said, they've got a lot worse lately. They've lost 4 of their last 6 away games. Just the 1 win over that period, and that was Burton Albion. Burton Albion, obviously, off the top of my head, they've also fallen off a cliff. I don't think they've won since maybe November, early December, something like that.
They're struggling, and I don't know if you can attribute the recent form to the missing players, but you can definitely attribute the last few results to those missing, because without Barry, like, any team in League One's going to miss him. He'd be the best player for any team in that division. So yeah, it's a huge loss, and I think they're going to struggle in the back end of this season in terms of creativity and creating chances. And they may well get a playoff place, but I would say they probably just miss out. Only just.
Interesting. Reading as well, very strong at home, averaging 2.45 points per game from their home matches and just 1.08 on the road. The 1.37 PPG difference is the second highest in League One behind Wrexham. So, yeah, certainly one to watch. And it's going to be quite rare to get them with a plus handicap at home, you'd think.
So, yeah.
Yeah, certainly one to watch. Sam's second bet is Reading plus 0.25. That's at even money when they take on Stockport in League One on the weekend. Daniele, back over to you for another continental double.
Yes, this time is in Serie A, and this time we got 2 big games on Saturday. We got Milan Juventus first, and then, of course, the small matter of Atalanta Napoli, top of the table clash with Inter, watching that, trying to see if they can capitalize. Now, Juventus 13 draw the season in Serie A at Atalanta, but probably one of the best performances in midweek. They took the lead and then they conceded. They play without a recognized number 9 with McKennie and Koopmeiners as 2 false 9s because Vlahovic is still injured, but although it's rumored he might leave Turin in this session. Again, it is work in progress under Thiago Motta. I feel the ideas and the change, of course, is there, although sometimes Thiago Motta changes even too much. He sometimes even surprises himself, apart from the critics. And the results haven't backed him up yet. Now, the record of draws in Serie A belongs to Inter, 18 in 2004-2005. Back then, they finished 3rd. So I think this Juventus is still very much on course to finish in the top 4. Although, after having spent so many millions in the summer, it would probably feel like an underachievement. But I don't think the team has got the quality and experience yet to compete for the league. When it comes to Milan, probably we talked about the Consensao effect a bit too early. Again, I do believe Milan are going to probably win more games than not in the second part of the season. They are projected by Betsy to finish 5th in the league, just behind Juve, so they represent a good value for a top 4 finish at good odds at the moment. But I think, yes, Conceição has got some work to do, just in terms of keeping everyone focused in a way. And at the moment, yeah, they do live on individual brilliance. Look, the previous game in the Serie A finished 0-0 and was a snooze fest. Only 3 shots on target, and there were no more than 12 shots altogether. But they met again in the Super Cup just a week ago with Conceição on the bench, and it was a hand-to-hand stuff. 6 shots on target, 21 shots, twice the number of corners that we saw in the league, 12 against 6, and Milan won in the comeback. I don't think they're gonna repeat what we happened back in November. Also, that 0-0 draw was after the international break, and normally, as we talked about in the podcast before, big games after the international break between big teams are often cagey. That's a trend in Italy, in La Liga, in Premier League. I don't think this is going to be the case. That's why I go for the over 2 goals line as the first part of the Serie A double.
Yeah, interesting one. You mentioned the draws there. It's going back to last season. It's 19 of 27 draws in Serie A for Juventus. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Also because this season, he also links back to the inability of holding on to leads. They took the leads 12 times. In 6 of those games, they have dropped points. Since they are missing Gelson Bremer as a centre-back, the defense is not quite the same. They're going to invest, of course. They're going to bring another defender, probably Ronald Araujo. Kolo Muani, by the way, he has already come, so he might even play his part. And yes, we're going to analyze maybe next week what Kolo Muani can bring to this Juventus. I don't think he's an alternative of Vlahovic. He's actually play alongside Vlahovic and maybe give them a little bit more of finishing touch, really. But I think it's about hanging on to the leads. This is not the Juventus that we know. This is not the Juventus we used to see, the 1-0, 2-0, grinding out results. They really lose control of games. But as I said, against Atalanta, they play well. They even have chances to score the 2-1 with Ildiz, who looks better and better every day we see him. But yeah, that's probably the main issue there.
Yeah, on AC Milan, we've talked about Conceição a few times. They beat Como last week. Goal for Teo Hernandez, goal for Rafael Leao. They are starting to find a bit of form, aren't they, down that left-hand side? Is that going to be the key for this game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming down Juventus is right.
It's crucially, that's the key. Teo Hernandez and Rafael Leao are Milan best player, the one that can change games. I think what Milan lacks is a bit of defensive cohesion. The most important player behind those two is Fofana, who stabilizes them. But and again, the back four, you don't really see anybody able to hold the line and hold sustained pressure. It's going to be a depleted Milan, by the way, without Pulisic, who's been instrumental, without Morata suspended. So maybe there is also the lack of Vlahovic from Juventus. So that's why the goals line has been set so low. But again, having seen the Super Cup game, which was more end-to-end, and considering where are we at the season, this could be almost a playoff for who gets the 4th spot. I think they're going to be goals on this one. So yeah, as I said, as a first leg of this Miniaka, over 2 goals line. Again, it's an Asian line, so you need 3 goals to win the bet. 2 goals, you just get your money back for Juventus Milan.
Great. And this is a double, so let's talk about the other leg. And Kavica Kvaratskhelia less Napoli. That was difficult.
Yes, that's Napoli traveling to Atalanta. Again, over 2 goals line. Altogether, by the way, pays 2.48. So it's a mini Akka. For a Napoli side that is getting better, I think. Now, not only they achieve wins to nil, but convincing wins to nil. And of course, yes, Kvaratskhelia moving out is a loss for them, although his numbers this season haven't been as good as in previous seasons. He averages a goal or an assist every 3 games for Napoli. But this time, he only has completed 27% of dribbles and take-ons, whereas his natural replacement, who's David Neres, averaged 53.3. Neres, who comes from Benfica, is more direct. He's a left-footed player who plays on the left side, so he hogs the touchline and he goes wide. Whereas Kvaratskhelia comes inside. He's a right-footed player and tries to curl it on the far post. And if you look at the shot map of Kvaratskhelia, he takes an awful lot of shots from all sorts of distances, not often finding the right end product. I think having a different striker that is not Osimhen in Lukaku, they don't link up very well. Lukaku only has provided 1 assist for Kvaratskhelia. I think it's a loss. Conte wants him replaced with some big name, probably Alexandro Garnacho. I don't think this is the case. In January, it's very difficult to spend that sort of money. They're probably Napoli going to bank on the 75 millions and then sign somebody in the summer and maybe try to fill the void with someone on loan from Serie A right now. But I don't think the loss of Kvaratskhelia diminished Napoli's chances of winning the title. They only got 18 games to play. The bookies really consider them second favourites behind Inter. You remember we talked about a few weeks ago the market of winners without Inter. They started as high as 585, now are at 163. They seem to have something more than Atalanta at the moment. But careful, because Atalanta, yes, have gone to a rough patch, 3 consecutive draws. But again, the reaction they had in the second half against Juventus was great. And Retegui is back, by the way. Serie A top goal scorer against Juve. Got another outlet there. I think in terms of squad depth, Atalanta are as good as Inter. I think they're going to be goals here. Over 2 goals as well. Again, put it together with Juventus Milan. 2 fairly high-scoring games, 248 in total.
Yeah, some really, really exciting fixtures in Serie A this weekend. Going to be watching closely. Just to recap, Daniele's second bet is over 2 goals in Juventus versus AC Milan and over 2 goals in Atalanta versus Napoli. That's a 2.48 with another full unit on that. Scott, close it off for the singles, please, with your bet for Arsenal versus Aston Villa.
Yeah, it's quite a nice game. This was obviously the fixture that cost Arsenal the title last season. I know they've since avenged that by going to Villa and winning 2-0, but I do think there'll be an element of revenge in the air at the Emirates, because obviously there's far more Arsenal fans in the home game. Does feel as though Arsenal really clinging on to the coattails of Liverpool at the moment. They're really just rolling with the punches. Liverpool are far more convincing. But Arsenal still have a chance. Obviously, they gain points on Liverpool midweek with Slotside dropping points. But the injury to Saka really, really is hurting them. That equaliser was so predictable, wasn't it? Gabriel off a corner as these corners keep racking up. And Arsenal, they really do deserve the plaudits for it. I know they criticise for a lack of goals from open play, but it's not necessarily the case. They've scored 25 from open play this season, which I think would be the 7th most in the league. So considering just how many chances the likes of Havertz have been missing lately, it's still a pretty good return. The clashes with Villa, though, are usually cagey affairs. We're banking on that lack of creativity here. Saka being absent probably does help us as well, because he was such an outlet for Arsenal in terms of scoring last season and assisting this season. One side has kept a clean sheet in the last 3 head-to-heads between these sides, and there's been no first half in 2 of those. That's first half goal in 2 of those. Slow starts should mean fewer corners, so we're going to bank on under 12 corners and also under 28.5 shots. Arsenal matches have seen the fewest corners in the Premier League with an average of 9.57. Obviously, Arsenal are winning a sizable chunk of those corners, but this shouldn't be as one-sided. Villa are a very capable team. I don't expect extended periods where they're under the cosh, so you could see even less here. And that was shown in the reverse fixture where they were just 5 corners. So, and Arsenal won 2-0. That's way, way below. And we're talking the last 5. There's been 11 or fewer in the last 4 head-to-heads, I should say. So, very, very, very easy. You'd think, as long as we get a slow start, no frantic goal from anywhere. I'm looking to not see a Villa goal, certainly within the first 30 minutes. I think comfortably we'll go under 11.5 here. And then naturally, if we're going to bank on a cagey game, we might as well take the under shots as well. So there were just 20 shots in the reverse fixture, and the 28.5 shots has landed in 4 of the last 5 head-to-heads with an average of 24.8 per game. So the 28.5 looks comfortable as well. Arsenal, they've gone through this sort of recent spell where they're getting a lot of stick for a lack of creativity. As I say, I'm not so sure it's all well-founded, but they haven't really been getting as many shots away. Their last 5 Premier League home matches have seen 20 shots on average. And then we go to Villa's last 5 Premier League away games, and they've seen 25 on average, with under 28.5 landing in all of those fixtures. So I really do think these lines are quite high here, given the high-stakes nature of the game and just how cagey it could be from the early stages.
Yeah. 21 total shots in Villa's game against Everton in midweek. And these lines are going to be so dependent on game state. It was really interesting what you said about Arsenal's games having the fewest corners, but that's like total corners, isn't it? Because a lot of it is down to like Arsenal getting a lot and their opponents not getting many at all.
It is exactly that. So the fewest total corners means that Arsenal are conceding 3.14 corners per game, which is the second fewest in the league, and that's the main thing. Arsenal themselves are winning the 5th most corners in the Premier League. I just think because these teams are quite closely matched, then there's not really going to be any spells where you see a team rack up sort of 3 or 4 within a real tight space of time. So I think under 12 looks really good here.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with the bet. It's just I think I could probably see it looking at Villa's away form. It's been pretty dire, isn't it? I know they've won in midweek, but I think it was 4 straight away losses in the Premier League before that. Some pretty bad losses as well, and big game in the Champions League in midweek. Villa are travelling away. Arsenal are home. I think they got Dynamo Zagreb, so you could probably maybe ease off in that game and maybe put the full give everything in this one. Obviously, with Unai Emery returning to the Emirates as well, Arsenal really want to beat Aston Villa. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, if we saw a similar pattern to what we've seen with those corners, Arsenal dominating and not giving too much away. But so, yeah, interesting one. Do you think the Champions League returning is going to affect things? We know Villa have been absolutely dire in games directly after Champions League matches, but do you think maybe they'll have one eye on this because they've got a really good chance of finishing in the top 8?
I think they'll certainly be looking at it, but it's such an important fixture from a personal point of view for Emery. And if this was after the Champions League, as you say, I'd be more concerned. I just think Arsenal really lack the firepower. And when you look at the 2 goals in the week against Tottenham, and obviously the set piece again, and then Trossard from they were the sort of the goalkeeper, really, having a lot to say with the second goal. I just don't think that Arsenal have the confidence to go there and really put them to the sword in terms of pressure. And then Villa are very adept at keeping hold of the ball in tight spaces. As I said, the head-to-head numbers really show that. Just 5 corners in the reverse fixture, as Arsenal did win 2-0. And it's not a slight on Arsenal. I just don't see them as swashbuckling as they have been in the past, let's say.
Confidence-based team. Scott's second bet is under 12 corners and under 28.5 shots in Arsenal versus Aston Villa. That's at 1.71 with a full unit on that. Let's get to the Pod Treble, and unfortunate Pod Treble, we didn't get the treble, Sam.
I know.
Big shame.
I know. Well, unlike our trusty Spanish bird handler, the midweek treble was a bit flaccid, so hoping to revert back to winning ways here. And I'm starting with Plymouth Argyle. Over 2.5 goes at 2.05 at home park versus QPR. This line actually opened at 2.25, has since shifted up, but there is an argument to be made that over 2.5 goals should rarely be odds against that home park. QPR will be looking for payback. I was at the game at Loftus Road earlier this season. We had a couple men sent off, one late on, and they peppered the goal for the remainder. No idea how it ended 1-1. They had 30 shots, racked up the XG, and they're in a good vein of form actually right now, and I'm expecting them to contribute to the scoring here. And I also think Argyle will chip in. Midweek against Oxford ended 1-1. That was a big game nearer the bottom end of the championship table. It was also Miran Muslic's first game as Plymouth Argyle gaffer, and in one of his welcome interviews he described exactly what he wanted from this Plymouth Argyle team. So he said he wants them to be active, aggressive, intense, structured and organised, ready to attack, ready to counter-press, very proactive, not waiting, not dropping or getting deep, which sounds brilliant. Don't know if it's going to come true, but it sounds excellent and a bit different to what we've seen previously under Wayne Rooney this season. So I think that approach will see Argyle get in the faces of their opponents, high up the pitch, and prove tough to play against. And it should also really bring goal-scoring opportunities for Argyle if you're going to play in the opponent's half of the pitch and look to pick off errors and passes. And there should be chances. And given we're in the infancy of Muslic's reign in Devon, I would assume that it will allow few chances for QPR as well, like we saw against Oxford. They'll probably feel aggrieved they didn't win that 2-1. They had a couple good chances near the end. So over 2.5 goals. It's landed in 8 of 12 championship matches at home park. And at 2.05, it's a good price.
Yeah, keeping a close eye on Plymouth Argyle and their new manager. I was saying to you, I'm ready to go to war for that man.
It was Churchillian, wasn't it? That speech he gave to the Argyle players. They've got to be walking out of that first meeting thinking this guy is serious. Let's run through a brick wall for him. You'd hope. Well, I hope.
Certainly see. Well, yeah, they don't have to run through any brick walls. They just have to concede a couple of goals.
Score a couple of goals, yeah.
Yeah, or even concede a few.
I know they can concede a couple, so yeah.
See that. Yeah, it's not dependent on the manager. Scott, give us your submission to the treble, please.
It's a game we already looked at, Everton versus Tottenham. We're backing over 11.5 free kicks and over 32.5 throws. So we've already covered the free kicks. We're backing over 13.5, I should say, as a single. But we can lower that line slightly and back over 32.5 throws here. And it's similar thinking, really. Moyes is obviously looking to inspire a reaction as we go into the closing months or the second half of the season. And with bets like free kicks, throw-ins, and tackles, you're basically betting against prolonged periods of possession. The Premier League is all about control nowadays. I just don't think we'll see a great deal of control from either team, with Everton pushing so hard to try and just get everybody on the same page and up for it. Villa are capable of obviously dominating, and we didn't see that when they went to Goodison midweek. There was 50-50 in possession. So over 32.5 throws to add to our free kick angle here. Looks good. Everton matches have seen the second most throws in the league this season with an average of 37.35. This rises to 38.6 at Goodison Park. Obviously, the first game against Villa, sort of similar opponent, I'd say, in the sense, just in terms of quality. I know Tottenham are underperforming this season, and that probably helps this year. There were 36 throws when Everton played Villa, despite Villa matches seeing the fewest throws in the Premier League, with 25.48 on average, so over 10 more throws than Villa's average there. There were 34 throws when Tottenham hosted Everton earlier in the season, and 58 the last time Spurs came to Goodison. So for those looking for a long shot, you could go really, really high on these throw-ins. Tottenham not exactly free-flowing at the moment, short on confidence as we covered. And I just think it sets itself up nicely for what will be like a bitty game with both teams really just trying to hammer out a result as opposed to playing any sort of free-flowing football.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Daniele, close it off.
Fiorentina, Torino, and I go for Torino, the visitors, with an Asian handicap +1, boosted by a good performance in the derby against Juventus, a draw. Of course, Torino against a Fiorentina side that, after the tragic happening to Eduardo Bove, who had a cardiac arrest on the 1st of December in the game against Inter, unfortunately, Fiorentina, for them, have fallen off a cliff. They've only collected 4 points in their last 6 games, lost at the bottom of the table Monza on Monday, and the goals for Moise Kean have dried up. The contribution of the new signings, Colpani, Gudmundsson, Gosens, really are almost intangible. Yes, of course, they've done a good campaign in the Conference League, but it's not quite enough. And if you look at the results of Fiorentina, they won by more than 2 goals margin at home this season only twice. Once against Roma, and that was Roma under Juric, and the second time was against Verona with a stoppage time goal from Moise Kean. If you look at Torino, they never got beaten heavily away from home this season, apart from in the derby when they lost 2-0. But, I think that's understandable. So, again, that Asian handicap would have won in most of Torino away games, or at least return your stake. Torino, in the last 6 games, have collected more points than Fiorentina. They are in an upward curve. Maybe they don't have a lot of goals in them, but certainly are a gritty side that can stifle Fiorentina. If they lose, I don't think they get beaten heavily. So I'm going to go for an Asian handicap +1 for Torino, the Granata at Firenze, 157.
Good stuff. And if you put all 3 of those bets into a treble, you'll get odds of 5.81, which we will be tracking for a quarter of a unit. Let's recap the bets. Sam, give us your 2 singles.
2 singles, Fulham -0.5 Asian handicap at 1.95 against Leicester, and Reading +0.25 Asian handicap at evens versus Stockport, both on Bet365.
Are you taking your Pod Treble as a single?
Yes, I will as well,
you
please.
Will.
Yeah, Plymouth Argyle over 2.5 goes at 2.05 against QPR.
Cool. And Scott?
Everton versus Tottenham, over 13.5 free kicks for Tottenham at 1.83. We'll take a unit on that. And then Arsenal versus Aston Villa, under 12 corners and under 28.5 shots at 1.71, also a unit.
Daniele?
I'm going to go for two doubles. La Liga double, Getafe Barcelona over 2.25 goals Asian line, and Las Palmas Asian handicap plus 275 as they travel to Real Madrid, together 248, one unit. And then moving on to Serie A, Juventus Milan over 2 goals Asian line, and Atalanta Napoli over 2 goals Asian line, together same odds, 248, both for 1 unit.
Good stuff. And Pod Treble, just to recap, Sam Ingram's submission is Plymouth Argyle over 2.5 goals in the Plymouth Argyle game versus QPR. Scott Thornton's is over 11.5 free kicks for Tottenham and over 32.5 total throws in Everton versus Tottenham. And Daniele Fisichella's is Torino +1 in the Asian handicap market versus Fiorentina. Put all those together, you'll get odds of 5.81. If you are going to be using any of the bets from today's show, then please gamble responsibly, only betting what you can afford to lose. Thank you very much to Sam Ingram.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott Thornton.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniele Fisichella.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks from me. We'll be back next week.